The virtual work session of the Annapolis City Council for Thursday, February 25th at 2020 will be called to order at 3:07. At this time, would everyone willing and able please join us for a rousing version of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag,
the United States
of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, the first item on the agenda is ID 1721, Waterworks Park Proposed Lease. This will be presented by Administrative Assistant to the Mayor's Office, Mr. Brian Callahan.
All right, I was out at Waterworks Park today getting Archie's Award and Davis Award for a great asset that we are lucky enough to own. And I'm going to hand it over to Brian, I think.
Good afternoon, everybody. Julian, could you put up that first slide? I hand delivered you all last week or the week before some information, some background history. I'm going to give just a couple of minutes of history here, just so that we all know what we're talking about when we talk about Waterworks Park. So in 1883, there was a fire near the State House. And due to the concerns of almost losing the State House, the state authorized or did a proposal for a water system for the city of Annapolis. In 1885, the Annapolis Water Company was incorporated and the farmhouse that's there was built. Then in the 20s, they built the dam, which was rebuilt and fortified in the early 2000s. In 1907, the pump house building was built. It was built, and the architects were Baldwin and Pennington, which among many, many projects, a couple that you might know were the Camden Yards warehouses there at the Orioles Stadium and the B&O Roundhouse. Then let's jump ahead to 1994. There was a master plan for Waterworks Park that was proposed, and phase one was finished. They put in a shelter and some handicap accessible paths, but nothing else has really been done for quite a long time there. The Maryland Historic Trust in 2001 did do a review. In 2005, another master plan was done together. And then in 2018, when we came into office, the group called MORE, the Mid-Atlantic Off-Road Enthusiasts that Gavin just mentioned, came to us. They had an idea, and this group maintains trails at over 60 parks in the Mid-Atlantic region. We helped work with the legal to get them access. They helped design, and then they later got approval to build 11 miles of trails, which you can see on the slide here. The trails go from Housley all the way up to Honeysuckle Road. The city has David Bugelman from the Moore Group to thank. He led a group of 50 volunteers, at least 50, almost every Saturday for 6 months to build these trails. 11 miles. This morning, the Moore Group gave the city, David Gerald, the mayor, David Gerald, and Parks and Rec Director Archie Traynor, awards for land management award. Now, I'm going to show you some other slides now of the current condition. Julian and I went out there with the drone, and we took some pictures. Oh, this is a sign. That sign there. We hope to build one of these very shortly. We're getting a permit from the county to put it on Housley Road at the entrance to the trails. I'd also like to put another one near the building that we're going to be talking about. In these next slides here, you're going to see the building has been empty for 30 or 40 years, and it needs some love and care. You can see here the gutters are pulling away from the building. There's some cracks like this. I had Dave Wallace, an engineer, come out and look at, there's like 3 cracks. And he said the building is solid, but we need to tuck point those just to keep moisture from getting in there. You can see here the windows are not in great shape, they're rotting. And this building has just pretty much been storage like this. They get water problems like this. These pieces here, these tubes to the left, they're for the leaf vacuum that we don't even have any longer. So there's a lot of stuff in here. The city manager has told me that we can get this building cleaned out. This thing is a 1884 fire steamer that used to be kept right here in City Hall. So there's a back of the building. The dam is to your right here. There's potential to put a bench and get that water fountain working for all the people using the trails. I'd like to get one of those signs that I said we're putting on Housley, maybe right in that last slide there, somewhere near there, for all the hikers and bikers that are using it. Yeah, somewhere in there. That could be a nice little rest stop. You can see in the background, there's an at-grade crossing that crosses the water that goes over the dam. And that trail takes you up to the solar park. I recommend that all the council members at least hike it. There's several different trails, different lengths, and it's really, really beautiful out there. Here, this is a view from the drone over the top of the building, looking at the dam and the water behind it. You can see this cool piece on the building here needs a lot of love and attention. So that brings us to the proposal that we have today, and I'm going to introduce the Moore Group here in just a minute, but I wanted to let you all know I've had department heads out there multiple times. I've been trying to keep Roberta and John Tower included in all of this because, as I mentioned, this is on the National Trust, I believe, or it could be. And I've been keeping Archie up to date, even though this isn't directly a parks program, it has parks potential, and it is in a park. So I've been keeping Archie up to form. I invited him and Roberta and John Tower all to come today. I did invite several firemen because I'm going to have John Muhich say a few words after the Makerspace guys give their presentation. But for now, I'm going to introduce Jack Warpinski from Makerspace, and Julian is going to pull up their presentation to give to you, the council, for consideration.
Hey, Brian, actually, well, I'm Jack Warpinski, but Russell is actually going to give the presentation since he's the Makerspace president right now.
Great. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hi. So, Brian, you guys have a copy of the presentation?
Yep,
great. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for taking the time to be with us today and to give us the opportunity to talk about this. We are happy to be able to reschedule from last week's weather. And happy that looks like we finally turned the corner into spring here. So on the next slide, it's just a quick agenda. So we're gonna have a quick introduction and on our organization. We'll go over the proposal for the pump house, and then we'll have a brief period for more discussion. So what is a makerspace? I usually like to make the analogy that makerspace is like a public library or rec center or gym, but instead of books or workout machines, you find machine tools and shop space. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're completely volunteer run. We've been fortunate enough to be able to completely fund ourselves up to this date. Our focus, our kind of the core aspects of our vision is multi-pronged. So the first is community access. So giving folks the ability to come to our shop and have space to be able to do a project, if that would be a woodworking project that they're interested in, electronics type projects, or programming or coding. If they're artists, they have room to spread out and pursue their art. And then also we have certain technology tools is what I like to call them, but things like computer controlled machine tools. So we have a computer controlled router, a laser cutter and engraver, 3D printers, things of that nature that a lot of folks wouldn't necessarily have the space or the funds to be able to invest in for themselves. So our current workshop is about 1,250 square feet, and we provide opportunities. So with that, that's one aspect of our vision, the community access. Another aspect is the education and exposure. So that's to the community, and we hope to really reach out to kids. As a lot of you know, there's not much in way of shop class in the school curriculums these days. And so across the country, makerspace organizations like ours have done a little bit to step into that void and provide children with STEAM education opportunities and kind of exposure to get them interested in science, technology, electronics, arts, and math type subjects. And then finally, we also like to support local small businesses. So we have a number of very small businesses. We're talking like kind of sole proprietor, maybe one or two employees type organizations that are able to use our workshop as a flex space for them, and be able to leverage our tools and space to help grow their startup type business. So again, we're 100% volunteer run. We've been completely self-funded by our membership up to this date. We've been in operation for about 4 years, and we've had a location open for about 3.5, I think. And we've had continuous membership growth aside from, these unprecedented times that we're all experiencing the past year. We provide 24/7 access to our shop, and we are the only makerspace in the local area. So speaking of unprecedented times, one of our most recent, big impacts within the community was our COVID-19 efforts, where we manufactured and supplied over 2,000 articles of personal protective equipment and accessories to local first responders and healthcare professionals. And that's the Eastport Firehouse sporting some of our face masks that we 3D printed and laser cut and supplied to them. one of their shift captains was not able to source the equipment that they needed, and he found out about us just Googling around and asked us for some equipment, and we responded, and we're more than happy to help provide that to our local first responders. On the next slide, we've got just some photos of our current space. So you can see, we've got a bunch of workbenches and space and tools, and this was before the pandemic hit, but real good participation. It's I think our greatest resource as an organization is really the people that we get involved. There's just such a broad expertise and experience from all of our members. So more likely than not, if you're trying to learn a certain skill or knowledge, there is somebody there who has really good experience with it and can help you learn. So I think that's really just the folks that we have involved are the best part about us. So now we're just going to go over the proposal that we have for the waterworks site. As Brian described, the location, it's part of this park off of Defense Highway, and specifically we're talking about the building there. So inside are some more photos of the interior. You can see that there's a lot of storage there. There's also some old infrastructure. Public Works has told us that none of it is in use at all or would be in use in the future. And so this series of photos is really from the front section, which is what we're most interested in. The back portions of the building, if we go to the overview there, are a lot of storage, but we would want to focus primarily our efforts in the area of the building labeled pump house there. We would need to improve some of the mechanical and electrical situations within the pump house. Specifically, if you go to the slide 10 there, we have the HVAC situation. The building's currently has no air conditioning. The oil heater's not functioning. There's no insulation. The air ceiling's probably quite poor with that cupola on the center of the top of the roof. It leaks and will require quite a bit of work. We need to repair windows and doors, make it, cosmetically appealing, and probably would involve some paint. We need to repair the bathroom facilities, and we would also need to lay out additional electrical receptacles and make sure that was suitable for a workshop environment. So on the next slide here, we have this is just a SketchUp 3D model of our current shop layout. And so I guess starting in the lower left-hand corner, we have some tables for a classroom space, then some shelving and work tables where they're 4x8 work tables where folks can spread out their project. Along the back wall, in addition to the shelving for a little bit of storage, we have a tool wall, tool storage, an assortment of power tools on work stands, and a wood lathe, a table saw, and then our technology tools of the CNC router, the laser cutter, and engraver. And not depicted here is our electronics bench and 3D printing area. So we would mostly be looking to replicate this in some form within the Waterworks building. This currently is about 26 by 43 foot. that interior waterworks building would give us an additional 20 feet. I think it was 46 by 42 or something like that. So that would be great space for us to expand into. But what does that mean for the city? And what impact could we do? Having this long-term and stable location would really allow us to focus on our community outreach and our core mission of education and small business support to the greater Annapolis area. So we can do, currently we're not doing any in-person classes due to the pandemic. We do some classes remotely. Unfortunately, a lot of the times, trades and hobbies require you to be in person to really experience them. So our classes right now are reduced, but we'd be able to get back to our full class program and hopefully expand that. We'd be happy to do public demonstrations and displays. There's a concept that's worked in previous years in other places called, I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart here. It's like a repair cafe. So members of the community that, they would want to repair an item in their home. Could be their automobile, could be like their dishwasher or clothes washer or dryer or something where they might not have the funds to be able to replace that item, or to hire a technician to come to their house and repair it. A repair cafe is kind of like a pop-up shop where folks come with those items, and there's people that have the expertise there to help them troubleshoot the item and repair that. And of course, it's a volunteer kind of donation, community support type activity. With the additional space, we'd be able to expand our machinery and equipment offerings, which that means that we can focus on different communities of work for folks to come in and get experience. Right now, we really have a very bare minimum. It's almost not. I would say we don't really have any metalworking capabilities. So if somebody was interested in a trade such as a machinist or a sheet metal fabricator or welding, which are all really great trades for folks to pursue professionally, we can't provide any opportunity for them to get involved in something like that. Whereas if we were able to start to expand our equipment offering in that in that specific area, folks could come and get experience with those tools in that trade to be able to know if they want to pursue that professionally or not. We'd be able to continue to offer 24/7 access, and we'd like to work with the Parks and Rec Department to maybe offer additional services to the community, if that was through kind of job training or job exploration, job experience exploration kind of work, or do I want to be a carpenter? Well, come take this, intro to carpentry trades course with us and learn what it is to do day-to-day carpentry work. So on the next slide, these are just some sample proposed terms to kind of start the conversation. We're not really clear on the process to iron these out and move forward with the city. So we're really grateful for Brian kind of being really patient with us, and he's been discussing this with us back and forth for a long time now, and we felt it was time to come before the city council here and make sure that we got all the feedback that we could from every stakeholder within the city. So what would be really great from our organization's perspective is if we could propose a lease for a minimal amount with and that makes it financially feasible for our organization to commit to it. And then with the ability to either prorate the amount or to charge the maintenance and improvements that we do to the building. So things like installing the HVAC, the improving and repairing the bathroom facility, upgrading the electrical, and then general maintenance like painting and repairing doors and windows and things of that nature. This would require some partnership with the city to continue to maintain the exterior and common areas of the park. That's up to be discussed. And finally, our additional terms, we'd love to work with Parks and Rec to expand our offering for the residents of the city and see what kind of symbiosis that, you know, between our missions we could have there. And so that's the end of the proposal. We're open for discussion, and I'm here along with several other of the board members, so we're happy to take any questions and provide you answers. Thanks very much for your time, and looking forward to hearing your response.
Thank you. I see my everybody's kid's doctor, Dr. Escobosa. How you doing there? Excited to have you on this call. I'm sure you know every person's kid in this city, and it would be nice to have them doing some classes in there. Alderman Arnett first hand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few questions. One, any restoration work, and particularly anything that's on the exterior of the building, I think it would be a good idea to have in the contract arrangement that that would require oversight by HBC or at least planning and zoning, historic preservation, because that is a very important building. It would be nice for us to apply to get that on the National Register. From what I see of these plans, there's no impact on the park space itself. All of this is space that seems like it's publicly accessible right off of Defense Highway, and I think that's good. In terms of the rest of the plan that Brian shared with us, though, we see a greenhouse and all kinds of things. Brian, is that going to be another proposal for this site, or
those were done decades ago, some of those drawings, and those were just to give you ideas that have happened in previous councils in previous decades. There's been ideas for the building for a long time, and nothing's really been done. So the idea is just to at least get something going there now, and Makerspace seemed like a great fit and would be a great partner with the city. And then,
well, I agree with you that Makerspace, and Jackie Guild and I were already talking about how we might want to commission the woodworkers to maybe do some, like a statue of African-American watermen that could go into the Hawkins Cove. So I think there's some ways that we can have some symbiotic relationships with the craftsmen there. But in the past, there's also been ideas of creating some of the space for auditorium space and educational space. So and the materials I have, I don't have something showing that specifically. Are there ideas that this is going to be made available for other purposes as well as for the placemakers?
Well, I can show you both the 94 master plan and the 2005 master plan if you would like to look through them, Alderman Arnett. I just, some of these ideas will take a lot of money. A lot of grants would have to be, we'd have to get a lot of things done to make that work. And so in the meantime, the building just keeps sitting empty decade after decade. And so rather than watching it deteriorate, it just seemed like a great fit to get Makerspace in there. And so there's a lot of things that still have to be worked out. There's some parking issues. And like I said, the masonry work and who's going to take care of all that. But before we did all that work, the council is the one who has to vote on whether this can even happen. So we wanted to come before you now and hope that you will support the overall idea so that between the city manager and historic preservation and other departments, we can hammer out the details.
Okay.
That it, Ross?
Yeah.
One of the things that Ross, John Tower said, he could teach classes on how to restore historic windows, stuff like that. That would be a good opportunity for people to teach some of those skills. You know, I know we've all got a few of those. So
we'd love to have anybody that is willing to teach a skill within the making community, which is very broad and vast. We'd love to have them and help expand our offering.
Alderman Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a public meeting and the public is watching, and I am utterly horrified at the state of this building. It breaks my heart. And the city owns 7 historic properties, the Burtis House, City Hall, the pump house, this pump house, the fire station, the fire hall, Maynard Burgess Market House. Why did this one get neglected? I think the public needs to know that so that we don't make the same mistake moving forward and that we ask for help when we need it. I mean, I'm reminded of the golf course, losing that because of not maintaining it. So I really think we need to talk about this.
Mr. City Manager?
So this is an old water treatment plant. So it's owned by the Water Enterprise Fund. And it was never thought to be reasonable to charge our ratepayers to keep up this historic building. Maybe you could question that now, but at the time, since there was no use for this building other than storage, and even then it's just minimally useful for that purpose, we didn't take money from the water fund to maintain it.
But we could have gotten grants or something, I guess. But we are where we are, and this is a great, life raft to send it. And I'd like to hear from John Tower on what it will take to maintain it.
And I think this is just the first step, to get it warm and give it some love, and then we can chase the big money that will take to the back end. The front end is in pretty good shape. It's the back end that is has a number of issues.
Yeah.
But it's going to be beautiful when they finish.
For a long time, there's only been, I asked for the numbers from Parks and Rec. There's only roughly about 100 people that get the permits to go fishing out there. Since we put these trails in, though, and we haven't even had a grand opening for them because of COVID and stuff. But since the trails have been put in, there's as many as 100 a day using the park now. And on the weekends, I think way more than that. And so the more we use it, the more we're going to want to care for it. And so that's one of the reasons we need to use it. It hasn't been used in decades. And I think getting Makerspace and the fire department who will give their little pitch here or explain their idea, I think will get us started on the process so that we can then go out and get the grants to do the ideas that you're discussing, Alderwoman Tierney.
Yeah, I trust that we will. I just want the public to know that we care about the buildings that we maintain, because I know we do.
John Tower is on the call, but I'm not sure if his audio is working. He's texted me he was having trouble, but if he's on and can speak to anything towards that, John, do you want to jump in? I think so too, because he did text me.
He's probably on his bicycle.
Does anybody else have questions for the makers?
Alderman Schandelmeyer?
Folks able to hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
About time. So I actually have a quick question on the renovation of the exterior of the building. Are we going to have to, and you guys is taking a look at the space, do any updates for parking, like paving things over, et cetera, or repaving?
Right. Yeah.
Do you want to take it, Brian, or do you?
Yeah, we're looking into that to put some additional gravel for parking for 6 to 8 cars, but it is in I think the critical area, or it's in a sensitive environmental area, so we have to work on the parking. That is something that I have been discussing with people, but again, I didn't want to try to solve all these problems until we knew we had the support of the council.
I think this is a fantastic plan, just something I would ask us to keep in mind as permeable parking surfaces. And Russell, I have one more question for you, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So I texted this to Brian, but since my audio is now working, I want to ask this to you guys. For the training in trades, would you guys be open to working with local unions to help potentially recruit young Annapolitans into that trades career path?
Absolutely. We'd love to have the engagement and be able to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Alderman Savage, I see Director Trader too.
Oh, yes, can you hear me?
I got Alderman Savage first, Director Trader. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so this does seem like a really good fit. There's a lot of potential, a win-win situation for everyone involved. I do have a number of questions, though, and one of them was about parking, which Alderman Schandelmeyer already asked, but I do want to emphasize, I get, with the improvements with those trails, and I'm often there just walking my dogs and biking, but I do see people parked along the street there, all the way down the street, really. And I often get there early morning because they don't park in the lot on the actual water park because I think it says permits are required. But oftentimes that lot's filled as well. So I don't know how many people, I guess the question for Russell, how many people typically use Makerspace? I mean, pre-pandemic, obviously, but how many people would use that space at a single time? What's your average and what's your peak?
Yeah, so thanks for the question, Alderman. I think currently we're, I think at our peak we were just at just under 80 members, maybe around 76 or so was our highest membership. And of that membership, we would have I'd say probably maybe 20 extremely active members. And so those are folks that would come, with regularity, maybe a day or two a week, possibly more, but you could rely on them coming in and using the space regularly. And at the most that we'd have on a regular kind of typical workday, the average attendance would probably, you get 10 people into our current space and it's starting to feel pretty crowded. We do have like general meeting events or open houses where the attendance is much higher. But I still think we're probably only getting 30 or 40 folks together at a time. And that's, I would imagine that some of my board members are going to tell me that that's extremely conservative on the estimate. But yeah, I would say, the kind of a typical day-to-day, you'd probably, if you have 5 people there, that's probably really normal. And then 10 to 15, you say, oh, okay, it's getting a lot of good use today.
At what time of day do people usually, is that during work hours or evening, weekends? Is it?
To be honest, I think it's really spread out.
Okay.
During the during the workday, we probably, right now it's seeing a lot more use during the workday because folks aren't going anywhere else. And so some of our members are actually using it as a working location to be able to get away from the noise of the kids and stuff at home to be able to work. I think we probably can count on fewer than 5 folks during the workday. The evenings can be a bit busier. We tend to have what we call like interest nights, so we'll have like an electronics night or a woodworking night. So on the electronics night, if you're working on a Arduino electronic project or whatever, you can come in and see what everybody else is working on and get help with your project. And same for the woodworking, except then you're interested in woodworking. And those, I would imagine, again, probably around the 10 as an average. And those aren't every night of the week. Later in the evenings, we do have some members that are firefighters or policemen or have shift work that, where they are sometimes typically at work at night. And then when they're not at work, they don't have anything else to do and everything's closed around town. So they come and that's when they have some personal time to explore their hobbies at the space. So, I mean, we offer 24/7 access and people make use of those 24 hours in the day.
Well, good. Well, I think that's good to know as we figure out parking needs. And I think one other thing to possibly work into all of this, Brian, might be, if you do decide to go down the route of putting in permeable pavers or even incorporating some, green improvements to the building or even the property, would be to pull in some youth, have like something like a Green Works, Youth Works program, something similar to what they've done in Baltimore and elsewhere, where you can teach kids not only about the skills the Makerspace provides, but and maybe Makerspace could incorporate some things about work with groups like the Watershed Stewards about how to put in rain barrels or how to install permeable pavers or maintain them, and there's a lot of potential with stormwater as well. And that's, that was mentioned, I think a while ago as well. I've seen one of the designs about environmental education. But that kind of raises the question too about the space there. I see, because there are kind of 2 sections to the building, right? And this would occupy the rear section, is that right?
There's kind of
the front section.
Oh, the front section.
There's kind of 3 sections to the building. The big square part of the building that's closest to the road, farthest from the dam, is the one that they mostly want to use. Maybe a part of the middle section as storage. The other part of the middle section is what the fire department is looking to use, and Captain Munich will speak to that in a few minutes. And the back section there's no plans at this time.
Okay. It might be good to have a classroom or just general use space, as I know Director Trader's he's mentioned before about having bring groups in there for various educational opportunities. One other question about the exterior restoration work. I think you said, Russell, that was the proposal was to have that excluded from, basically that'd be a responsibility of the city. Is that right? Or would it still be kind of a joint effort?
So I think our organization, we can provide volunteer manpower. Unfortunately, at this stage with our organization's development, I don't think financially we're prepared to pay a contractor to come and do that work. And I don't think we have the expertise within our organization to, do that at the level that, that building deserves and the city would require. So we would really be looking to do that to approach this in a partnership type arrangement. And, it made sense to us that, the city could take the aspect of making sure that the foundation and the frame of the building, so to speak, is up to par, and we can take the responsibility to do simple maintenance and improvements with the city's oversight and approval.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, in order, Director Trader, then Alderman Finlayson, and then Alderman Gay. That hands went up that way. Director Trader.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would like to say thank you to you and Brian for such great research and legwork, because I think this is a real good way to get this building open and operated for the public. I'm all for it, and I speak for the Recreation Department as well. I do have a few questions here. In your list of infrastructure, renovations and maintenance, I didn't hear the word plumbing. Am I correct, or was that an oversight on my part?
I think that was an oversight on our part. The bathroom facilities that are there currently is one toilet and maybe a sink. So we would definitely need to improve the plumbing at the site.
Okay, and I guess a lot of the renovations would be based on the codes, building codes of the county. So there may be some things that we don't know about at this particular time that we may have to do. Is that a reasonable assumption?
Yes, I think so. And we had some discussion, and one of the questions I suppose that we need to have the answer to is which jurisdiction, I guess, do we need to honor? I'm not knowledgeable enough about how the city and the county differentiate the codes or the permit approval process or things of that nature. But it would be, I think for our organization, it would make a lot of sense if we could work with the city and, we didn't have to worry about then also going and making sure that the county stamped off on it. But again, I don't know.
It'll be the county.
Yeah.
It'll be the county.
Yeah.
It's in the county, so that's county jurisdiction.
Okay. So we'd have to abide by county code and their requirements on the work site and things like that. But then I suppose that there'd be maybe somebody in your office, Mr. City Manager, that would be a city liaison to be able to provide kind of direct oversight or approval, or what would be the process, correct, I guess, to go through?
Yeah, plus our historic group would be involved too. So it would be both Public Works owns the building, so they'll be involved, as well as historic preservation.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, another aspect of the infrastructure of the building, I would imagine would be a security alarm system. This is a very remote area. It seems that there will be a lot of expensive equipment, a lot of expensive supplies that would be, susceptible to break-in. So I just hope that you put an alarm system on your list of infrastructure needs.
Yes, sir.
A question about your current stakeholders and partners that you use as conduits for especially the youth. Who are they at this particular time?
Are you asking about like what communities are involved? Or?
What community or community organizations are involved with partnering with you and your goals and objectives?
So currently we're operating independently as the Makerspace of Annapolis. As far as who composes our membership, it's community members in the greater Annapolis area. majority of them are city residents, but we do have members that are county residents or are even outside of the county. For instance, I live in Queen Anne's County right now. I used to be a city resident, but now live here and plan to move in the future. But you know, there's a wide background of folks, engineers, medical providers, teachers, police. I have a hard time kind of putting my finger directly on, you know, listing out the stakeholders within our organization.
Yeah, I understand, but I just want you to be clear that Recreation and Parks is willing and ready to go as a partner. We have our pulse on the city.
Great.
We understand the city intimately, the various neighborhoods, the different demographics, so on and so forth. And we serve as conduits for various nonprofit organizations in which we funnel students, youth of all ages into various different types of projects and programs. And this looks like a great initiative here, and we would like to partner with you.
That's wonderful to hear. I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood you earlier. No, that sounds great. We would love to be able to have that partnership and try to leverage to increase our outreach. That is
great.
Wonderful.
And just to reiterate what Councilman Savage was saying about the environmental education and opportunities for children to learn about the environment, I would like for you to put that in your mind and to start to develop that, because you're in a perfect environment, pristine environment to make that happen. One more question. You mentioned the word coding. I'm not that sharp in the field of computers, but that is in the computer genre. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's all I have.
Great.
Thank you, Alderman Finlayson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Russell, do you know whether this building is on the historical registry, the National Historical Registry? I mean, given the age of the building, I can't help but wonder if it is.
Thank you, Alderwoman. I'm not certain that it is on the National Historic Registry. It is a registered historic building. One of the meetings that we had with Brian and Public Works was with two folks from the Annapolis Historical Society joined us, and they were able to provide. Roberta
Lehner and Jim Tower.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah. So, Brian, do you recall if they had said it was registered, or?
I think they said we are eligible for that. I wish John's audio was working so he could better answer that question. But Sheila, I can find the answer for you, and I'll get back to you.
Thank you, Brian. I think it's important that we know that, because if we're talking about replacing windows and things like that, there are certain standards that have to be met when we're dealing with historical structures. So we don't want to, do something that's going to diminish the designation of a historic building. My other question, Russell, you mentioned your volunteers would be doing all of the work. So they would be the instructors. Is that what I understood you to say?
Yes. Right now, the way that we have ourselves structured is our members, they pay a monthly fee for use of the space, and they're expected to be the ethos, I guess, of our organization is one where it's it is a community, it's all of ours, and so you're expected to help out either through maintenance and improvements, if that's just simple cleaning or putting things back in their place, or if you have the expertise and experience and desire to help us provide some of these courses and outreach to the community. So yeah, we're all volunteers, and everybody involved kind of pitches in their own way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Gay and then Alderman Tierney.
Thank you. So I came a little late, so I'm just going to ask some questions to catch myself up. How much would this cost, this project?
So thanks, Alderman. We haven't gotten to the stage where we can put a budget on it. I think our interest in bringing this to before the council was to identify all the stakeholders within the city and to kind of agree on a process on how to flesh this out and move forward. So Brian or the city manager could speak to a budget on the building improvements that should happen from their end. But
could they please?
Brian, have you gotten to the point where you've put any kind of started a budget?
No, I have not. I wanted to get the council's approval first, but we got to figure out, do you have to have, fire extinguishers and fire exit, where the exit signs, and, what has to be done in a total of all of that. And I'll gladly help Public Works work on that, but it might be Director Gerald's better to answer that question.
Could you also maybe speak briefly to the timeline? I may have missed that as well. When are you planning on moving forward with this project? And does it need council approval, or can it be done through the administration?
Thanks, Alderman. I can't speak to the process that needs to be followed with the city. As far as timeline, I think what our organization would hope to agree to and work with the city on would be for probably occupation in the summer of 2022. So if that gives us enough time to be able to go through this process of actually really fleshing out these details so that we get a good detailed budget and make sure that we understand all the requirements before us and that we can work together and then have time to be able to complete the projects to improve the site so that we'd be able to occupy it.
City Manager?
Alderman Gay, the concept is this would be a relatively long-term lease with the Makerspace organization. So the lease would have to be approved by council. And the terms of the lease would be in lieu of them paying rent, they would do improvements or restoration of the building. So there may not be any cost to the city, but this is a multi-million-dollar project to restore it properly. So we're not going to get there with this project, but hopefully enough could be done so it could be habitable.
Yeah, and so let me just, then I like the idea, but I'm not, I just don't know if this is the right time, with so much going on and even considering budgeting something like this. And this is what upsets me furthermore. It's a really nice building. I think that it is great recreational space. I like Waterworks, been down there on the bike, it's cool. But how many people from my community or from surrounding communities realistically are at Waterworks Park? Because they're not riding down the Wee or the West East Express to get there. They're not driving there. So that's an issue. We have facilities in our city, which our kids can get to, that are not updated, that don't have the best technology and resources. And so, that's the thing for me. And I get that we could get kids there or provide, but that we talk about that often. And I think does that happen when we, create these programs with the nonprofits? We talked about this with the City Dock Project, where the jobs and stuff that come out of it and the training, so I'm not really feeling it right now. And I think it's a great idea, though. I'd like to see the facility restored. I remember we were down there. I thought it would be a nice little shop or something, little bookstore or something I could go. But I mean, whatever it is, I think it will be great. I just don't think now is the time. We just have so many issues in our communities that we just haven't dealt with yet. And I think to be to be, even putting aside any money in any budget proposed or anything is just a bit much right now. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone could tell me otherwise.
Sorry, I have Archie. Did you want to answer that, Archie? You're on mute. You're on mute, Archie.
Unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
There's a precedent that exists that has already gotten our children, from places like Robinwood, Hacker themselves have had fish and release programs. The police department has had fish and release programs for various low-income, underserved communities at Waterworks Park, and Recreation and Parks itself this past summer had fish and release programs and activities at Waterworks Park via the summer camp at Stanton Community Center. So there's many opportunities, and this has all been done without the building. So imagine once the building gets started, there will be more opportunities for our children, and Recreation and Parks will shoulder that responsibility because we've already done it and we always do it.
Alderman Gay.
I asked in the last budget cycle last year, I asked David, yourself, Director Trader, I think some members of your staff, and Melissa Maddox-Evans from HAC. I said, let's get together. Let's create a partnership or plan where Parks and Recs and the city and HACA would split the cost and care of their recreational facilities for our communities, for the youth in our city. So how can we make a commitment with this group on for a project that we're going to pay for, but we couldn't meet the commitment to our kids? Not to say, Director Trader, that you don't do that, because I know historically you have been in the city and in the communities, but I'm saying with the city's dollar, within our budget, we had an opportunity to help our communities and meet the needs of our communities through a partnership. So if we can't partner with HACA and meet the needs in our city, then you get where I'm going? What my concern is?
Well, I understand your concern, but I also understand that in actuality, we have created a partnership with HACA throughout the years. And I have evidence.
By picking up kids and carrying them away for a couple hours. And, it's all good, but I'm just saying we need stuff in our communities. And I think that to spend money on this, we would be paying it. It's not like they would be paying to fix the facility.
That's the idea, Alderman Gay. They are paying to fix the facility, not us.
But he just said, before I asked my question, they asked what the cost would be, or would they be putting in any cost? He said, no, we'd be putting in manpower.
Yeah, and materials. I'll let some of these guys answer. So.
He was also talking about the exterior. They said earlier that they're going to handle the interior, most of the interior improvements.
Alderman Gay, this is Joe Albraven from the Office of Law. Can this? Are you then saying then that part of your critique is that this particular project can be partnered with a community, not necessarily a community, but an organization or I guess it's an entity such as HACA to provide additional services? Because as I understand it, they're renting the front office. So it seems to me that there may be other space in the building that you might be able to include the type of program that you're talking about. Am I wrong?
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying halt this process and fix what's in our communities first. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We got a myriad of issues, water access, just X, Y, Z. And I think that we should be trying to get that together first.
And we are.
Okay,
every single day, Alderman Gay.
But Alderman Gay, again, my question is, so understanding everything you just said and understanding everything the mayor and everybody else just said, is it possible then that your suggestion is that you believe that a HACA type of component, a volunteer type of component that will bring additional kids, is it a programmatic issue that is it a program that can be added to the facility that will satisfy you, or is it something more than a programmatic addition to the site as it becomes operational?
They've already indicated that they would seek out children or programs and stuff to run here. And I'm saying, that's good. That's, fine. We take the kids out for a couple hours and all that. It's great. I'm just saying that this project should be tabled and we should focus on issues in our communities and fix that first. That's all I'm saying.
And Alderman Gay, we work
so that doesn't need a partnership with Hacker.
We work on multiple issues at the same time. This is just one issue that we're presenting to you.
But the point, and I'll just say this in closing, because I'm not about to take up the space and go back and forth. I just gave a specific example of where we could have partnered with the facility or Hacker, fixed recreational spaces in our communities where kids actually play. And we didn't do that. So for me to hear the city manager and the director of Parks and Recs now saying, oh, we're getting in this partnership with them and doing this, that hurts me, because we had an opportunity to fix the needs of kids in our communities and we didn't do it.
Well, that can be debated at another time and place, Councilman Gay, and I'm willing to do that. But this particular project here, I think is a good one. I think that we have had a partnership with a Hacker long before you became councilman, and we have done things that is in writing that I can pass on to you for your knowledge and information.
That would be great.
Thank you. So Alderman Tierney next, then Alderman Arnett. Sorry, I didn't see any other hands. Am I seeing any other hands?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. Could I just jump in just to put
Russell,
a period on that last one from our organization? We're not married to this waterworks facility or proposal. If there's something that the city thinks would be better suited, and that we want to be a resource for the community, and however we can do that, shoot us your ideas and tell us how we can help and provide or just make Annapolis be one small part about why it's such a great place to live. And so I understand very much, Alderman Gay, what your point was there. And if there's something that would be better suited for the community, let's bring that forward, and we're happy to work together to make that happen.
Maybe we can connect you. We do not own the Hacker buildings. We don't own those properties, but if there is a way we could fit into them, Alderman Go, we will do that. You can connect between the two. This is just an idea. Alderman Tierney.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm over my reaction to the building. I think I'm in a funk still from Tiger Woods. I rode my bike 10 miles just thinking of him today. Anyways, John Towers is not on his bicycle, but he is responding to me. And for those of you who do not know, John Towers is assistant to the Chief of Historic Preservation, Roberta Lehner, to address. Well, first, in context, let me address Alderwoman Finlayson's good question. It is the large, I'll read from this history, that the large brick pump house is listed on the Maryland Inventory of Historic Properties. It's kind of cool if you read this history. It's a pretty neat building, enough that in Roberta's staff report, she said that it is eligible for landmark status, which would probably open up another can of worms, under criterion A for its association with the growth and development of the Annapolis Water Company. And it is also, the pump house is considered eligible under criterion C as an architecturally important example of early 20th century civic architecture. There was this cool period in time when we celebrated all of our public facilities, they became all ornate. I think Roberta speaks to that, when they built these wonderful, beautiful train stations and utility buildings, unlike what, they do now. Anyways, so John responded, and is not on his bike. He is having technical difficulties, but the Waterworks building is stable, which is a testament to its excellent initial construction. It has been neglected for decades, possibly 5 decades, but can be brought back to a useful condition. He also said the shell is in good shape, except for the skylight that would need to be replaced. And the landmark designation has been started. So I can't really answer Alderman Finlayson's question on whether or not, is this all under HPC? Because it gets kind of quirky because the permitting would be under the county. So I guess we're just not there yet. But as what City Manager Jarrell said, if we were to restore the building to its original glory, it would be millions of dollars. Sorry. I think so. I mean, am I wrong, David? He's not answering.
That's correct.
Okay.
At least. I mean, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett had his hand up next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to speak to something that Brian said in passing. I don't think today's meeting is an approval. I think we're being given a concept. I personally would like to see a plan for the total use of this structure. I would also like to see a plan for us moving forward to get the historic status that the building deserves. I would like to know the value of this proposal, $100 a month, not very much money, but the in-kind work could be considerable. But then the question is it sufficient to do all of the restoration that's needed in that building? And if not, how much restoration needs to be done to make it occupiable by any group? This group sounds pretty good to me, but there could be other groups. So we need to know, and that speaks to Dewan's point. I think that there could be some city money that may need to be coming forth, which, given that I have no alternative, I'm just fine with the city spending that money for this to bring it all back into useful life. But I guess I would hate to approach this building one space at a time. I know there have been other plans for the use of this building, restoring it and making it into an environmental training center. There's lots of environmental aspects around there in terms of it's near the solar park, but it of course has the wonderful Waterworks Park there that is full of all kinds of natural environment kinds of things. Even the greenhouse space that Brian was showing us with the materials he passed around a couple of weeks ago, that could be interesting because that could be another kind of cooperative where we could have this workspace going on with the more mechanical arts kinds of things, and then another space going on where we have a food cooperative, and it could even be a food cooperative for people that are in need of food, so we can fill up some of these food deserts and so on. But that says to me even more, before we make a decision on one thing, we need to know all things. I think we can come to that quickly. Russell, believe me, I'm not trying to throw a roadblock in your way. I think this is a great idea, and I think that it's got lots of merits aside from the in-kind, because I think to the extent that we can get kids involved in this, to the extent we could come to you and commission various kinds of works, like I'm very interested in this 3D copying. I don't know much about it, but it does seem to me like there's all kinds of different artisan sorts of things that could be fulminated here, and it would all be good stuff. But I guess I would say to the administration, I guess I would need a lot more comprehensive plan for the entire use of the building and surrounding spaces than we're getting from this one presentation. I bet that can be pulled together fairly quickly. I think Director Trader has been thinking about a lot of these things. I know Bob Agee over the years has been thinking about a lot of things that could go on here. And I think I'd also like to hear some of the things that would make my colleague Alderman Gay happy. What are some of the things we're going to do that if this comes about, and I think, Russell, you've offered that that's a good idea, that can benefit people in the public housing, that this could be the start for learning a trade and moving into a profession So it could all be wonderful, but I think we need a comprehensive plan. So that's my usual short-winded statement.
Thank you, Alderman Schandelmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if I'm putting the cart ahead of the horse here, just let me know. Have we thought out who would be responsible for liability of potential injuries at the site because of the partnership we're setting up? Would that be would that be the city, or would it be you guys? Or we just haven't even thought of that yet because this is still in the drawing phase.
Okay, well, I would say to the extent that all the facilities we're putting into play is to allow people access to certain natural things that we have created for them, and we invited them to enjoy it. We put up the correct sign that the property has been provided without further payment and without use, or whatever the case may be. The city will have no liability, or yes, we'll owe them the same liability we owe a trespasser, which is you don't really owe a trespasser much at that point. So because we're putting the land to public use, and there's law in Maryland that will protect our dedication of this property to public use, but that's outside of the building. Inside of the building, I think that that could be mitigated by insurance policies, or requiring, for example, that they as tenants carry certain policies, or whatever the case may be. But it's not necessarily putting the cart before the horse. I think if this process moves forward, we are going to have to think about liability. But I know that we can limit our liability outside of the building, and then we could probably think about ways to limit our liability inside of the building also.
Yeah, thank you.
I can just jump in and say that we do carry insurance for our membership. It's an insurance policy that's very similar to what a camp would carry, or some program like that. We have a member orientation that we give all of our members when they decide to join, in order to be able to use this space. They commit to being a part of our community and working in this space in a responsible manner. They understand that, their share of responsibility, and then in order to be able to use some of the more contentious machines that, either, from a perspective of they could hurt the user if used improperly, or the user could damage the machine because it's expensive. And some of our more technological tools like the laser cutter or CNC router have, there's a higher user knowledge required to use them effectively. But we have further trainings for that before members can be approved for use on those types of tools. So we are already in operation, and we manage those issues every day already. So I think we could figure out how to work with the city in that location, in that building.
So this isn't like going in fresh. You've done this before. It's pretty easy to set up.
We've been in a physical location since about June of 2017, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alderman Tierney.
Yeah, real quick. Director Trader, are you there? Hi. Director Trader, is there public transportation to that location that you are aware of? Being on the transportation committee, maybe this is something we can talk about, access to these places.
Not to my knowledge, there's no transportation to that particular park.
Not on the highway or anything. I mean,
well, there is transportation that goes to the mall, but,
right.
But I think that's to the extent of it. Now, whether the bus goes down Bestgate Road into Housley Road, I don't know if it crosses General Highway or not.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. If it goes to Housley Road, to Safeway and all. Huh.
Yeah.
Housley is on the public
Housley.
transportation route, but
There you go. Yeah.
General's
Okay.
Highway is not. But the access from Housley is kind of
Yeah. The back end.
not
Yeah.
straightforward. It's a mile or two in. You know.
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't
Right.
gone that
So the
far.
answer is yes. So the answer is yes.
Technically, yes. If they want to hike a little bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, so we've got Captain Muhich on the line. Brian wants to introduce him. The Annapolis Fire Department are excited. Did you see that cool old pumper idea? That would be a great project for them to get their hands on, give them a space to rehab it, to get people involved in its rehab, to give some love to another piece of the building potentially. Can I hand it over to Brian?
Yeah. Hey, Jolene, could you please pull up maybe that photo of the old steamer while we're talking?
Brian, while he's doing that, is that pump still there? I thought it had long disappeared.
It's still there.
Okay, good.
Before I hand it over and introduce Captain Muhich, I just wanted to let Alderman Gay know that I have discussed with Dee Ward and with the Makerspace guys about Dee's project last year where he was teaching kids how to build birdhouses and picnic tables. And so we have discussed working with people like Dee to try to take kids to another level of carpentry. At this point, I'd like to, so Captain Muhich has not put together a proposal like Makerspace has, but there's an idea that I would like him to let you guys know about. So if you're still here, Captain Muhich, it's all you.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, excellent. So I'm John. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Muhich. I'm a captain with the Annapolis Fire Department. I've kind of formed an ad hoc committee in regards to our 1884 Salisbury steamer. So for those of you that do not know, we are still in possession of this 1884 Salisbury steamer, which was purchased by the city of Annapolis for $3,000. It was purchased after a fire that the city had, I believe in 1883. The city had a fire downtown where they had to pull a steamer from the Naval Academy, and they actually sent to Baltimore for a second steamer to come down and put the fire out. So at that point in time, the city fathers agreed to purchase a steamer, which was originally located at City Hall. If you look at City Hall and you look to the left where the current city attorney's office is, you'll see what looks like a garage door that had been bricked in at one point in time. The steamer was stationed there, and at the time, the steamer was hooked up to the boiler at City Hall. So to give you the history and a little working knowledge of it, the pressure for the steamer was given from the boiler at City Hall because you can't heat a couple hundred gallons of water in a few seconds that will require you to get the pump up the pressure to pump the water. So at that point in time, once the steamer was purchased, the first city paid fireman or the paid driver was hired to drive the steamer to fires in the city. So we're still in possession of this great piece of Annapolis history, but we are in serious danger of losing it. Over the years, pieces have been removed. As you can see right now, it is pretty much stripped down to the frame, the pumping mechanism, and what's left of the boiler and the wheels, which are actually in fairly good shape. The city also, actually, there are several historic pieces related to the city that are still around. We have a 1755 hand pumper that is currently on loan to the Fire Museum of Maryland. There's another gentleman in the city who owns a 1880s hose carriage, which is a four-wheel carriage that carried the hose that would have run from the steamer to the fire scene. And we have several other pieces that are around. So we actually do have some of our earliest pieces of firefighting equipment still available to us. We have no place to display them, no place to keep them. So Brian approached me approximately 2 weeks ago and said, "Hey, do you realize we still have the steamer?" I said, "Yes." As you can tell, I pretty much know the full history of it. And at that point in time, he said, "What do you think we can do with it?" Myself and a bunch of historical buffs from the fire department, most of them are volunteers. One of them who's in his 80s, who has extremely good knowledge of the steamer, have formed an ad hoc committee, and it's a committee in our infancy stage. So we really don't have a great plan right now. We have a lot of questions that would have to be answered, a lot of questions I'm sure that you would need to have answered before we can continue. But one of the biggest questions that we have to have answered is, can we keep the space that it's in currently right now, use that to restore the steamer with a long-term goal of then turning this same space and maybe the space next to it into a hand-drawn fire department museum. We have relics, we have photographs, we have different materials, helmets, jackets, coats, nozzles and everything, all the way back from the 1800s that are from Annapolis that can be displayed. It would be a long-term project. In my estimation, it would probably take, to get the steamer where it would be presentable, would probably be about 10 years. To make it a museum type space would be dependent on funding. And trust me, anybody that's worked with the city, as long as I have for 22 years, knows about city funding and how tight our budget is. So those are things that would have to be answered. My expectations are the funding would have to come from outside the city through grants and donations, but myself and several people are willing to put in the probably a few thousand hours to get not only the steamer where it would need to be, but also to get the space where it needed to be, where we can set up a historical space, for lack of a better term, a small museum, and we could bring people in and show them the history of Annapolis and save this piece of history of Annapolis. So we are at a point right now where, you know, like I said, we are in the very infancy stage of this. A lot of questions need to be answered, but one of the questions is this something that the city would support? So I will leave you at that. Let me know if you have any questions, but like I said, we are just starting this process. Just started it 3 weeks ago, so we have a long way to go and a lot of questions to answer.
Autumn Pan, I see you're talking.
It's about how old most of our equipment is, isn't it?
All right. Can I get the full screen, Julian? I can't see if any hands are up particularly. Did anyone have some questions? It's just another idea.
And I will say this, after listening to the Makerspace presentation, I think it would be a great marriage of both us and them, because we have a lot of people that have the knowledge, skills, and ability to run those tools. A few of our people, one person in particular, I would consider a master woodworker. So I feel that it would be a very good marriage if all this came to fruition.
That's great. Come on by and check us out. No need to wait till then.
Okay.
It's Joel.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Mayor. Also, the fact that they will have the 3D printer, if the situation moves forward as explained, they'll have this 3D printer, which I suspect may come in handy to reprint some of those pieces that can no longer be replicated because of the age of the steamer. So I think that it probably would make sense, and especially to have that place to display everything come together. Of course, it's not a legal comment; it's just a comment about the way the two projects may fit together.
Good point.
Any other questions? I will also say this to Russell. I am also an apprentice blacksmith, so I may be able to show you some of my, demonstrate some of my skills. I can set up my forge outside for a weekend maybe, and I would love to get together with you folks.
That sounds great. Maybe when we turn the corner on this pandemic, we can get that organized.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? Yeah, I think as good as it sounds theoretically and in all practicality and mechanically, it offsets any type of environmental or recreational component that would be possible in that building. Personally, I think that a museum or any type of fire station artifacts facility would be best served in the city proper. I think that we should look for a place, and I have to say that I am biased because it is a park, it is environment, and it is recreation, and I must speak up in terms of maintaining space for recreation and environmental recreation.
Director Trader, it just seemed like for the next, if we give Makerspace however many years we give them to do their project, that it seemed like a perfect fit to also have the fire department in there restoring. It seemed like a good, just for this temporary until we can get the funding and restore the building enough to do the bigger idea that we're talking about with the environmental educational place or whatever we decide, the council decides to do.
Well, you know, it's only 2 spaces in the building. And so there hasn't been a decision made yet, but, you know, I have to maintain again that recreation, environmental, education is important. And there's not a lot of space there.
Awesome. Any other questions? Jack?
Yeah, just I guess before we close, I just wanted to, you know, kind of clarify our position. I mean, ideally, you know, somebody would have the money to do like a multi-million-dollar renovation for the building. But in actuality, like it would require very little money from the city for us to be able to use the building for a couple years as those bigger plans are fleshed out. You know, I'm thinking that, you know, our organization may invest $30,000 to $40,000 on the interior, hire a couple contractors for HVAC and electrical, and the city possibly even less than that, just to address, you know, some of the major issues with the, you know, they're not major issues, but cosmetic issues with the masonry and the gutters on the outside of the building. It'd be certainly better than nothing, and I think it would at least prevent the building from further deteriorating in the meantime, you know, while, you know, the I guess the master plan or a bigger plan is developed for the park. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's exactly right, Jack. Thank you very much. Awesome. Well, we really, really appreciate it, and we appreciate what you do. And I think, you know, Alderman Gay and I are going to work on a big master plan for a big innovation center in this city that has a purpose-built makerspace and a WeWork space and a business incubator space. That would be our big goal at the end, maybe a little closer in town. But we would love, for me, you know, love to see something being done, some love being given to that building. And as you say, if we do nothing, it will deteriorate further. Okay, any other? Russell?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I made the point. Our contact information is at makeannapolis.org. And if you'd like to send the board of our organization an email, it's board@makeannapolis.org. For any of the council members or anybody else in the city, if you have an idea that where we could help provide some service or make an impact in your specific community, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and have that discussion. We're here to be an asset for our communities in the city. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to set you guys free. And Alderman Pound.
Okay, now I move that we adjourn.
Okay, can I get a vote on that? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
I'll second an aye.
Okay, thank you everyone. Meeting adjourned.